This is my first video in my Minecraft lore series, which I call the Minecraft Timeline. In this series, I'll go through a combination of some of my favorite theories to explain what I think happened in Minecraft's canonical past, starting with the birth of the universe. But how was it born exactly? Well, while there's not a lot of information regarding this point in the timeline for vanilla, we do get some information from Minecraft Legends. Specifically, they mention the flames of creation, a source that you use throughout the game to create golems out of thin air. Obviously, in the real world, there's no such thing as just having matter suddenly appear, but with Minecraft's logic and the flames of creation, it could definitely be possible, and is probably how the world was created. And now that we know what the universe was created with, let's talk about who exactly created it. I think that someone used the flames of creation to create the world, rather than it just creating itself, though that might be equally as probable. A lot of details in Minecraft point towards there being some sort of Minecraftian god, at least within the overworld, with the most convincing evidence found, again, in Minecraft Legends: the hosts. If you're not aware, the hosts are three higher beings named Knowledge, Action, and Foresight, likely representing different aspects of the game. In Minecraft Legends, the hosts seem to associate with the flames of creation that they allow you to use to make allies. It's safe to assume that the hosts use their power to create the overworld. The terrain, the blocks, all of it. It also wouldn't be a stretch to say that the hosts were themselves created by the flames of creation. As for life in the overworld, that's something I'm not completely sure about. Life could have evolved the same way it did in real life, through cells. Reproduction systems in Minecraft do indicate that natural selection could be possible, especially considering the more complex genetics of pandas, with all that main gene and hidden gene stuff, which I might do a tutorial on after this series is done. It's possible to get a brown panda from breeding other not brown pandas. Who's to say that couldn't have happened naturally at the beginning of the Minecraft world? That being said, it could be just as likely that life, too, was created by the flames of creation, since we know it can produce life as seen through golems in Minecraft Legends. Mob spawners also produce ample evidence that the mob seeds of the overworld can be created. I'll probably go with the latter for this series, but we'll see. So the hosts are the caretakers of the overworlds. But the overworld isn't the only dimension in Minecraft. What about the Nether? The Nether is a lot harder. As far as I know, the hosts didn't have anything to do with the Nether, and the Nether doesn't have any caretakers. However, I did hear a theory called the multiverse theory. This theory would suggest that the overworld and Nether were parallel dimensions. They were both massive caves, but the overworld's caves collapsed, creating the surface of the overworld and making room for more life. But the Nether always stayed a cave, and the temperature later rose dangerously high due to the ancient builder's greenhouse gases. This theory is one of the more reasonable theories I've come across, and I can't totally disprove it. The differences between the two dimensions, like size, can simply be resolved by them being two different worlds. Of course, it's possible that the Nether was created on its own by the flames of creation, and it wasn't as large or as plentiful as the overworld because of the host's lack of involvement in its making. In other words, it was sort of incomplete. Either way, the Nether is going to have a huge effect in the overworld and Minecraft's timeline in the future. But obviously, we can't just leave out the third and final dimension, the end. The end is a bit more interesting. See, there's another theory I've heard about that kinda goes along with the multiverse theory. See, the end was once a dimension like the overworld, until it was transformed. Transformed by a host. Not foresight, knowledge, or action. No, by a fourth host. See, in Minecraft Legends, there are a few details that might lead one to suspect the existence of a fourth host. For one, the eyes. Action has one eye, knowledge has two, and foresight has four. It would make sense that there would be one with three eyes, but there's not. There's also this scene, where it shows four corners, but only three hosts. Or this scene, where they all glance at a corner of the room, after foresight says,
I am just sad that it has come to this.
Because of the few but fairly convincing evidence, it's a common theory that there was once a fourth host. But we don't know who they are. Or do we? The other part of this theory is that the fourth host is actually Ender, like from Eyes of Ender or the Heart of Ender from Minecraft Dungeons. It would make sense. The vengeful Heart of Ender boss from Minecraft Dungeons depicts it as having three eyes. Not to mention, there are quite a few things in Minecraft that are named after him, including eyes and a heart, which were likely all his at one point. And if Ender was the fourth host, then he would have been the End's creator too. He used the flames of creation to terraform and corrupt the third version of the overworld into the dark and barren wasteland over the void that we know today as the End. Ender wanted to be more powerful than he already was, and so he shaped his own dimension, just for himself. He created the powerful Ender magic that we see in the warping powers of the Ender Pearl or Chorus Fruit. This energy is also apparent elsewhere in the Minecraft multiverse, and a topic for a different video. Alright, now we can finally get to the storytelling portion of this video. The flames of creation are a powerful substance. It was the first substance to ever exist in Minecraft. Everything came from the flames of creation. It's how the world of Minecraft started. But before the overworld, Nether, and End existed, there were the hosts. Born from the flames of creation, the hosts, Action, Knowledge, Ender, and Foresight, were essentially gods. They used their power to help the flames of creation generate a new dimension, the overworld. It was unlike anything the hosts had seen before. I mean, there wasn't really anything there before the overworld, but still, it was amazing. The mountains, the caves, the grass, the trees, the sky, and the day-night cycle. It was all so beautiful and peaceful, not bad for their first creation. And so, the hosts became the caretakers of the overworld, protecting it from whatever comes its way. But plants weren't the only life in the overworld. There was also sentient life. Creatures called mobs were generated from the flames of creation, possibly with a little help from evolution. Now again, we don't know a lot about the beginning of the timeline, so we don't know a lot about the animals that existed then either. We see a few unique animals in Minecraft Legends, and in Vanilla we get the Sniffer, an egg-laying, seed-eating mammal with 6 legs, mossy red fur, and some sort of yellow snout or beak. Based on some common theories about their supposed fossils, they used to be a lot bigger. Other fossils and basic logic suggest that there were plenty of other now extinct ancient mobs. I also think pigs, cows, and other modern animals were also created back then. The overworld flourished, but the Nether went a little differently. It was like the overworld in the sense that it had things like rock, mushrooms, and other stuff like that. Perhaps it was even cold and watery, a lot different than we know it to be today. Again, a topic for another video. Although it had similar features to the overworld, it was a lot less developed. There was no day-night cycle. Instead, the sky was an empty void. Not that it mattered anyway, the whole dimension was one giant cave. I don't think the hosts even knew about the Nether at this point. One dimension they probably did know about, however, was the End. See, while Action, Knowledge, and Foresight were content sharing the overworld, Ender wanted something all to himself. He used the power of the flames to generate his own dimension. This dimension was even worse than the Nether. The only land was a bunch of floating islands made of weird yellow rock. The only plants were the bizarre chorus fruit. The only mobs were the Endermites, and perhaps Shulkers. Despite the fact that Ender was greedy enough to want his own dimension, he didn't really bother the overworld. The closest he'd ever gotten to invading other dimensions were the Nether's warped forest. Somehow, a little bit of Ender's magic seeped into the Nether, warping the native crimson fungus. But the overworld was left in peace. And then, the caretakers of the overworld created a new mob. A mob more intelligent than the others. A mob who had the power to break, build, and craft blocks and items. The mob in question? The Ancient Builders. And the Villagers.